Right, that was Joe. All the things. You know, you hear that? That is eerie silence from a large section of our population. And that silence is directed at what's happened down in Florida. Let me ask you an honest question. We know that Nicholas Cruz gunned down, killed 17 people, and wounded 14 or 15 more. We also know that he was associated with white supremacists, which definitely explains why the police took him alive. Why would they kill him? They were just at the picnic with him. Have you also noticed how emboldened white supremacists have been ever since Donald Trump? Like white supremacist attacks have doubled since Trump's been in office. It's amazing what decent people will do when they're emboldened. But imagine how quiet it is right now. Imagine how much Trump would treat if instead of Nicholas Cruz, he was a Muslim. Instead of being a white supremacist Trump supporter, he was a radical Islamist. How loud it would be. Now, those people would still be just as dead. Things would be just as bad. But we would be hearing about how we needed to close our borders and why his immigration stance needs to be the same. We know this to be true. The most dangerous thing in America is angry white men. And the most dangerous thing in America is angry white men with access to guns that are this lethal. Don't try to blame the mentally ill. If you and the Republicans believed it was the mentally ill, you would have repealed a law that made it harder for them to get guns. There was a law in place already that made it more difficult for people to get guns. And what you and the Republicans did was decided not only to repeal that law, but to give them a gun for every voice in their head. It is not about mental illness. And if it is, obviously, if you believe it's a mental illness problem, why are you cutting funding for mental illness? If you believe it's a problem with the way things are happening, why are you doing everything to make, when people are mentally ill in this country, they don't get help. They get negativity and a gun. If this man were anything else other than a white supremacist Trump supporter, if he had brown skin, or if he was Latin, or if he came from another country, you would tell us how urgent this was. Your silence is complicit. It's really not even, it's a simple equation. Either you believe that we are doing all that we can do to protect American citizens, not just from foreign enemies, but from domestic ones. Either you believe that we're doing all that we can, or you don't. That's not right or left. That's not Republican or Democrat. That's not liberal or conservative. If you can tell me honestly that what we're seeing in terms of our children being gunned down in the streets with such regularity that it's almost numbing, that is the way that we are, and that's an acceptable thing, and that everybody's doing the best that they can do, or they're not. That's either right or wrong. Either you think this is the way it should go, or you don't. No one needs that level of lethality. You don't at all. Up from 1994 to 2004, those weapons were off the streets. Now, we know from sociologists that gun deaths in general are dropping, but we also know that the gun deaths in terms of mass shootings have escalated. Can you imagine, honestly, if Columbine had happened and they had that for arsenal, they had those weapons? Can you imagine how many people would be dead? Because it's not going to be very long. Look what one person did in Orlando at a nightclub, killing almost 50 people. Look what one person did in Vegas, killing almost 60 people and injuring over 200. Look what one person did at that school in Florida. Wait till there are 2 or 3 with those kind of weapons, because you know it's coming. When are we going to take responsibility and decide that we are not mature enough? Look, we're not mature enough to have medicine without abusing it. We're not responsible enough to have alcohol without abusing it. We're damn sure not responsible enough to have guns without abusing it. The government doesn't trust us with Sudafed, but it trusts us with AR-15s. You do not need a gun that has that kind of lethality to protect your home. That gun works for one reason, and it's to kill a lot of people. And I said this before. If you have that kind of gun and you want access to that kind of power, you are not a good guy. You're a bad guy waiting to happen. You're waiting for a war to break out with the government. You're waiting for a race war. You're waiting for somebody to piss you off at work. You're waiting for some aliens to attack from outer space. When you got that kind of gun, you ready to kill a lot of people real fast. Or either that or you're doing a Rambo movie. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the Jazz Report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show.